From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Tiger Cats Game Day with Courtney Stephen and Mike Daly.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tiger Cats Game Day on the Ticats Audio Network. My name is Courtney. His name is Mike. And Mike, this is the road trip to Calgary, where the Ticats are going to take on the 10-5 Stampeders. Hopes of punching a ticket to the playoffs. They need to win 2 out of the next 3 games at least to go to the playoffs. And right now, the opponent is wearing red and white. Mike, how you feeling about this one on a Friday night?
I mean, it's not getting much easier going into Calgary, having to play the Stamps, who are looking like one of the hottest teams in the CFL besides Winnipeg, right? They're kind of right up there with them. And, you know, Jake Mayer, the quarterback, ever since he's kind of taken over for Bo as that lead guy, he's been looking great, right? Kadeem Carey, he's going to be another big problem for the Ticats defense, something they're going to have to focus on. But I mean, this is where you got to prove that you're an actual playoff team, right? So they're fighting for the playoffs, but you're going to have to beat some pretty good teams along this little stretch and can't really leave it up to chance. I know, we say got to win at least the next 2 out of 3, but you don't want to be leaving those 2 games to those last 2 games of the season, because we know anybody can win any week. So got to get it done this week just to give yourself a little bit of breathing room to try to catch Sask.
Yeah, and in the era of Bo Levi Mitchell, the Ticats have historically struggled to win against Calgary in general, but specifically in Calgary on the road. We know that the Ticats have yet to win a game this year, so it would be no better time than the present to turn that one around and get some things going in the right direction. But let's look at these lineups. It's going to be a few faces out and a few faces in. Very exciting for the Hamilton Tiger Cat fans after only playing 6 games this year. Number 21, your favorite weak side linebacker, Simone Lawrence, is back in the lineup. How much of a lift, not even on the stat sheet, in the box score. I'm talking about just in the locker room, on the sidelines, when you run out of the tunnel, gather around that center field and break it down before kickoff. How much of a lift does 21 give to the Ticats?
Yeah, we've talked about this, plenty of times. He's that energy, that ball of energy. Well, it's every single day. It's, 6 a.m. morning practices all the way till, nighttime team functions. He's that ball of energy. And he's the one guy on the field that when a play is made, he is going to celebrate at every single play, whether it's a big play, whether it's a small play. He's celebrating. It's incredible, because when you get into this world of pro sports, you're so focused on your job and doing it really well and doing it perfectly that you almost forget that it's still a game. You know what I mean? And you still have to have fun with it because you're so focused on doing your job so well. Immediately after the play's done if you've done your job well or not, and you're just thinking about it in your head. But then you look over at Simone and he's having the time of his life on the football field. He brings that energy to everybody to reel them back in and say, oh yeah, this is fun and we can fly around and have a good time while we're trying to be perfect. And it's such a lift. And, you and I both know this from playing with him. It is such a good feeling. It's such a lift to be playing on a field with a guy like that it's really going to make everybody around him better.
Absolutely. A good friend of mine, Larry Dean, always used to say it's a child's game for a king's ransom. And Simone, interesting fact, half of the time this guy plays without a mouthpiece just so that he can talk more trash and so that more people can see that humongous smile from the stands. So that signature player will be in the lineup. A signature player who will also be in the lineup is Stephen Dunbar Jr., who is he sat out last week, but this year he has 869 yards and 6 touchdowns on 63 receptions. That's a huge part of the Ticats offense. And now, well, they haven't been as explosive in the pass game, getting into the end zone. They have been moving the ball all year long. And with Dane Evans really having a resurgence in this back part of the season, Stephen Dunbar Jr., a guy who you would have to go back to week 1 versus Saskatchewan to find a game where he had less than 3 receptions. He is a big part of that offense. So talk a little bit about what we can expect to see on that other side of the ball. We talked about Simone, 10th year player, playing his 149th game. But what about on the other side? We got some younger guys, some second year players who are really going to be making an impact in this one.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, like Stephen Dunbar coming back. That's huge for the Ticats offense. And when you look at this Calgary defense, so we're talking, some sort of matchup where you're trying to think that you can win, where you think you can take advantage of this Calgary's defense. Well, Calgary's defensive back crew, or at least their pass defense, is frankly, for lack of a better word, not very good. Right? They're giving up the most points or the most yards in the air as any defense, right? So when you look at Stephen Dunbar coming back, when you look at Dane trying to get rolling again, right? Having Tim White out there, Lamar Durant coming back, right? Keandre Smith is actually going to start out at the Z receiver, that wide side receiver, and he's having a great rookie year, right? And then you got Johnson, the big body guy that we saw make a couple plays last week. Those guys are going to be huge to be able to get this Ticats offense rolling because, I know we saw Wes Hills explode onto the scene last game with, 134 yards and, a Ticats offense that you say, well, are we rushing the ball 25 times in a game? Right? That's for everyone that's been a Ticats fan for a long time. That's pretty surprising, right? Like you almost have to go back to of recent, maybe the CJ Gable days where they're handing that ball off constantly. Well, to flip it on its head, when you got a Calgary defense that's giving up that many yards in the air, yeah, you're going to want to get Wes Hills the ball, but you're also going to want to see what kind of damage you can do to that back end.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at their defense, a guy like Brandon Dozier, I guess he's a name that people would know. Jonathan Moxey, number 2, playing out on that corner. He's a guy who's played half and corner for the Stampeders. Very talented, very, very savvy player for a young guy. But the rest of those players, really a lot remains to be seen or be proven. Their front 7 or their front 4 more specifically is the teeth of this defense. With Judge and Thurman at the linebacker spots. They are very good defenders, make a ton of tackles, disruptive in the run game. And then you got Flo Orumalade at the defensive end, playing next to Derek Wiggin and Big Rose 41 and Sean Lemon. So the front is the strength of this Calgary team. So it would be great to see Wes Hills, who is a bigger back, 6'1", 218, runs like it kind of guy, going up against those formidable run defenders. But to your point, I think this is the one where you see the ball get spread out towards the edges and you force these DBs to earn their paycheck because, quite frankly, that is the weakness of this Calgary team. And I know that the defensive coordinator, Brent Monson from Calgary, understands how the Ticats are going to try and attack his team. So he's going to have some things queued up to support this group tonight. So I'm interested to see that matchup. Before we get to talking a little bit more about Wes Hills and, of course, Kadeem Carey, because that is going to be a great little bit of a head-to-head, even though they won't actually go head-to-head. But this just the battle of the running backs I'm really looking forward to in this one. Let's just talk about a couple of guys who will not be in the game. So for the Calgary Stampeders, if anybody's watched the CFL this year, they know about Malik Henry. He has over 1,000 yards this year, 8 touchdowns. He is one of the main weapons of this entire team. So without him in the lineup, there was going to be a big vacancy. There's a big hole there. And so they're replacing him with number 14, Bain. I guess we can look to see how he will do, but I don't expect him to come in and do Malik Henry things, right? Malik Henry's longest reception of the year is about 89 yards. He's a guy who can score from anywhere. He runs all the routes, and Jake Mayer can use him as somewhat of a security blanket. But with him out of the lineup, Reggie Bagelton, I really expect number 84, the slot receiver, to take on a bigger role as one of the guys who has some of the longest tenure in Calgary. So there's going to be 2 offensive lines here. The offensive line for Calgary, they don't give up a ton of sacks, and obviously they've been great run blocking for a guy like Kadeem Carey. And then for the Ticats, the offensive line, it's like night and day from the beginning of the year till now. They have been playing lights out, and the transplant from the Edmonton Elks to the Hamilton Tiger Cats with the latest edition of David Beard, and then you have guys like on the ends and backing up Brandon Revenberg, who's approaching his 100th career game. How important is it going to be for the offensive line on both sides of the ball to show up to really protect both of these quarterbacks and establish a presence up front for either of these running games? How big is the offensive line going to be in this matchup?
Oh, it's going to be massive. You look at, you talked about the Calgary D line. What they rely on, a lot of their defense is that D line putting pressure on the quarterback. That's really what their defense relies on, and the reason that they're able to play the way they do. And looking at guys like Mike Rose and Sean Lemon, I think, is second in the league in sacks. Doesn't look like he's aging at all. Mike Rose, he's one of those type of guys to compare him to like a Dylan Wynn of the Ticats, where he's just a game record. Whether it's the stats show up or they don't, having him in there, he just really messes up an offense. You know what I mean? Like whether it's in the run, whether it's in the pass, he's just a dynamic inside interior lineman. So them putting pressure on Dane, that's going to be the biggest matchup that I see happening for this O-line, is trying to slow down, especially Sean Lemon, who seems to be getting to the quarterback quite a bit, and then Mike Rose from really destroying anything. When you flip it over to the other side, Calgary's only given up 13 sacks this year. So to put that into perspective, the next closest is at 25 sacks. So Calgary's offensive line, in terms of protecting their quarterback, is doing a fantastic job. 13 sacks. And you know what I mean? That's incredible when you look at it in a game that's going to pass, 30 times a game, right? So really where it comes to is that tells me two things: that teams are nervous to rush the passer with, a couple extra blitzers, because maybe Jake Mayer's getting it out quick, getting it to his playmakers early so that the blitz can't get there and he can't get hit. Or what that tells me is that this O-line is holding up against everybody and anybody in one-on-one situations, whatever it might be. So that'll be one of those point of emphasis for the Ticats is, okay, we have to really figure out when we're going to try to pressure this quarterback, because obviously they're doing a very good job at protecting the quarterback, or the quarterback's getting out very quickly, which you see Jake do quite a bit. And that'll be one of those little game plan decisions in Mark's head to try to figure out, how quickly he can get some pressure on that quarterback, or if he's just going to drop everyone into coverage. And that's something that I'm interested to see on what he comes out with early on in this game.
Yeah, and a quarterback who is not getting sacked a lot, it doesn't necessarily mean the quarterback is very mobile. But to your point, it means they're making great decisions. And sometimes the best decision is just to throw the ball away and live to fight another down. Jake Mayer, obviously, they saw a lot of potential in this guy because you took out the gunslinger, Bo Levi Mitchell, for him. And remember, Bo Levi is a guy who has won multiple Grey Cup championships. He's proven in this league he could do it. There was so much hype around him early in his career. He rose to his ceiling. He really did the things that he was supposed to do. Now, people can argue about if he was, in fact, the best quarterback in the league or not, but that's another conversation. I think my point is just that Jake Mayer obviously showed this team something that was enough to take out the guy who is, I think it's unanimous that Bo Levi is eventually one day going to be in the CFL Hall of Fame. The man won 3 championships. So there's a lot of potential that I think is untapped still for Jake Mayer in his young career. He hasn't really done as much to me to excite me, but the fact that he's not taking sacks, those are the small things that, a veteran quarterback does. And you don't always see that from the new guy. So it'll be interesting to see, what is the strategy? Do they try to disguise the coverages to make him make poor decisions? Or do they dial up pressure to force him to get the ball out of his hand quickly and maybe take away what his primary look would be? That would be an interesting storyline to watch. One last thing about who's in and out of the lineup. We know Dylan Wynn's not going to play. That's a given. Another guy who is going to be questionable is Micah Johnson. Now, the run game, as far as a defensive perspective for the Ticats, it's been one of the strong suits this whole season. Stopping the run is what they hang their hat on. But with the potential to not have Micah Johnson in the game for as much of the game as you would want. Like, he's going to dress, but he may not get as many snaps. How important is it for D linemen to rotate in and stay fresh? For the people who don't know how it works, could you just talk a little bit about how it works on a D line? It's not like a receiver or DB or linebacker. These guys, they work like tag team partners.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. And when you look at the Ticats depth chart this week, I know, it blew our mind a little bit ago when they were dressing 8 D linemen. And, I look across the board and it's, now it's 10 D linemen, right? And you talk about this rotation. Think of it like literally like a bench in basketball, except now what they do is they'll have their starting group that's out there. Maybe a couple guys that really won't come off the field, right? Like maybe a Julian Hauser might not come off the field. But those big guys in the middle, right? Ted Laurent, Micah Johnson, Dillawin, those type of guys. Listen, this is how it goes. They're big. You know what I mean? When they step on the scale, that scale tips a little bit, right? And they are putting out so much effort on the field that D-line, the position of D-lineman is just hustle. You can make a lot of plays and make a long career out of just working really, really hard. But the problem is when you're sitting there, especially for those inside guys at, 270 plus.
That's generous. That's generous.
Yeah,
that's that Jenny Craig D tackle you talk about.
So like 290, right? Some of these guys 300.
It's more like
you want them to be hustling every single play. Well, they need a break every now and then. So for the Ticats to be dressing this many D linemen, what that means is it's going to be pressure by committee, and that's going to be rotating in different guys. So yeah, Micah Johnson being out, that does hurt, because if he's not able to go and having Dylan Wynn out, I mean, we still have Ted Laurent in there, you know what I mean, who's going to do his thing. He's been great in this league every single time he gets to play. But those next people in, they're really going to have to step up. And it's not going to be one person having to step up, right? It's not a Mohamed Diallo having to step up just by himself. It's going to be that rotation of people, whether you see defensive ends come into the inside and try to get a little more speed on the inside. But it's hard work up there for the big boys. So it's really a rotating by cast.
Hey, it's a grown man's work. Get those big fellas some Gatorade, please. Keep them hydrated. And they're going to need to stay hydrated as they go head to head with Kadeem Carey. This is a guy I had the honor to play with when I spent my one season on the other side. Now, he is a ball of energy, about 5'9", 207 on the roster, but he plays like he's 6 feet tall. He runs hard and he is shifty. He can put a move on you in space. And then if you do give him a lane, he can break angles. So we've said this on the pod before, like the angle you think you have is not really the angle that you have when the running back changes gears and speeds up. So I think Kadeem Carey, a guy who can catch the ball, but he's most likely to hurt you on the ground. 949 rushing yards, good for first in the CFL. 9 rushing touchdowns, which is good for third in the CFL, but first among non-quarterbacks, because guys like Dominique out there just literally made a whole career out of grabbing the ball on the 1 yard line and punching it in. Power to you, brother, but you're not a running back. Let's remember that. And then he's averaging 6.73 yards per carry. That's literally give him the ball every play and he'll march down the field with that kind of average. The team is averaging 115 in Calgary compared to the Ticats 87. Now, those are huge numbers. And it shows that Calgary's committed to the run, and they've been committed to the run. There's a good reason for that. Kadeem Carey was injured a little bit in 2019. I remember when we played there, came back through the pandemic and whatnot, worked on his body, stayed healthy. And then this year, I feel like he's really coming into his own as the team had imagined originally. So they're leaning on him and he's ready. But a similar story, not necessarily the injuries that held Wes Hills out, but Wes Hills has been on the team for a year and a half, almost biding his time. And when he got in the game, I found a lot of similarities to their running style. Wes is a little bit more of a punishing downhill guy with a little bit of shake to him, whereas Kadeem, he will jump over your head if you try to cut him low, and he will shake you in the open field, but he does run behind his pads. This is going to be an exciting matchup. I think this is about as exciting as it gets. The Ticats gave West Hills the ball 25 times last game. That was more than pass attempts that they had. I feel like they really fed this man, because that was the key to victory. In this one, I know we talked about the defensive fronts being strong. We also talked about the O-lines. When it's cold weather football, now this game, I believe, is going to be somewhere in the teens, so it's not going to be frozen. But when it gets towards the playoffs, when it gets towards mid to late October, the running back has to show up. And so tonight, one of my key matchups is going to be who is able to run the ball better, to eat time, and to also set the team up with better second down situations. What are going to be the keys here for either of these teams in getting their main guy on offense? Because quite frankly, right now, West Hills is the guy for the Hamilton Tiger Cats on offense. The offense runs through him in the last two games. What is the key to getting these guys going? Kadeem Carey and West Hills.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I really think it's two completely different answers for each team. I think for the Ticats, that answer is giving him the ball, right? Whether it is that 25 times, that's a lot. You know what I mean? That is quite a bit, like last game. But it's just saying, you know what? He's going to break a few. Yeah, he might get stopped every once in a while, right? Somebody might shoot a gap and make a play in the backfield, and so be it. But let's not get away from what worked for us, right, in the past. So let's get Wes his touches. Let's see how many runs we can get him, how many different look runs, because it's going to be one of those things where Hamilton knows they're going to run the ball. Calgary's defense knows Hamilton's going to run the ball. But can you get it done in those situations where it's, yes, we are going to give it to West Hills to get the 2nd and 4, you know what I mean? Keep that defense off balance, but the defense might be sitting there doing, we know they're going to give it to West Hills, but can you get that first down, right? So I think for Hamilton, it's going to be giving him that opportunity to make those type of plays. And then the flip side for Calgary, I think what it's going to rely on is this number one defense against the rush to the Ticats, being able to really shut down and make Calgary say, you know what, we can't run the ball, right? Kadeem Carey, for as well as he's doing, this Ticats rush defense is just too good, what they've been doing all season long, to shut down that Calgary run, to say, okay, if you're going to beat us, it's got to be through the air, and you're going to have to go to these receivers that are fairly new, right? And I think that's really, when you look at the two different game plans for this rushing attack, that's how I see it panning out. Is that kind of similar to how you feel that this will really play out?
Yeah, I'd say so, because there's one team who knows their identity and another team that's finding their identity. The Ticats right now are finding their identity offensively. They know who they are on defense, and I think they're finding out who they are on special teams, especially when you have a guy like Lawrence back there returning. Lawrence Woods III, that is. When we get to a certain level of prestige, you go by one name. But on offense, the Ticats are definitely still finding their identity. At times, they've been spread them out, throw misdirection and screens, and then at other times, they've been trying to stretch the field. And then recently, they've been more of a running team. Not necessarily a running team, but a team that is not afraid to use the run to open up the pass. So I think the strategy here is force Calgary to bring defensive backs into the box to defend the run. You don't want Judge to be the main run defender. You would want to potentially formation Calgary into a situation where they're going to have to put guys who are pass defenders in run stopping positions and then run the ball at them. So I think you do that by motioning the defense into certain formations, and also just situationally by game plan, knowing when they like to run certain coverages. But it's going to have to be the pass game supporting the run and the run game supporting the pass to keep Brent Monson, who's a veteran defensive coordinator for Calgary, keeping him on his toes. I will like to say, though, we got all the way through this podcast and we have not talked about Tim White at all. And I mean, we talked about Stephen Dunbar as a guy who runs all the routes. He's returning to the lineup, but specifically Tim White, I think he is going to be one. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm hogging this because I should be asking you what is your key matchup, but I'm gonna tell you what's my key matchup. I want to see Tim White versus whoever they decide is going to be good enough to cover him, because quite frankly, they don't have a guy. I think the best cover guy they have is Jonathan Moxey, but he's playing on the corner, so him and Tim are not going to line up against each other. Tim plays in the slot. It gives him an advantage to move around, to waggle, and to attack the defense from all different kinds of angles. So Moxey being lined up against Stephen Dunbar Jr., that's a whole nother battle that we could talk about. But I think it would literally take at least 3 Calgary Stampeders to stop Tim White from having a 150-yard day if him and Dane and Tommy decided that that's what it was going to be. Tim was a guy who was leading the league in targets, and I think that continues because of what you alluded to, that the pass defense for the Calgary Stampeders has been their Achilles heel a little bit. Where do you think the key matchups to watch are in this game, if it's not the running backs and if it's not Tim White versus whoever is the best cover man in their secondary next to Jonathan Moxey?
Yeah, and actually kind of adding on to yours, I really like Tim with that matchup because when you think of bringing in those other receivers to help the run, right, whether it's a Lamar Durant or Johnson, bringing those big bodies in, they have to decide, and they being Calgary's defense, has to decide if they're going to bring those DBs in to help stop against the run. If that's the case, then, Tim White is up against one guy back there with all of that field. So I don't think anybody can really cover him. If they decide not to bring those people in, well, then Wes Hills is going to have another day like he did last week. So it's going to be one of those little games on, are they going to add in and leave somebody out there on Tim White all by themselves?
They're not good enough to cover Tim White straight up.
They are not.
They're not good.
So that's going to be that game. And that's going to be that game. But yeah, I think, kind of going a little with the script, what I've seen from Calgary and, for the excitement of having a Simone Lawrence back, my matchup is going to be Kadeem Carey, but it's also going to be Logan. So number 20 for the Calgary Stampeders against Simone and Jovan. The reason for this is they're a very good yin and yang type running back, right? Logan's one of those returner running backs where every game you watch of Calgary, he's making 7 people miss and going for a 50-yard touchdown run. He is one of these guys that, short little guy that's tough to see behind the offensive line and what looks like close to impossible to tackle, whether he's returning the ball or whether he's in the backfield getting passes out like a swing pass and taking it to the house. He is, between him, Kadeem Carey and Logan, those two are going to be a tough matchup for, frankly, a formidable group. That's Jovan and Simone, right? 2 of the best really in the league right now, especially Jovan, the way he's been playing. So that's going to be a really, really exciting matchup to watch. And then to, bring everything all together, let's add the other linebacker in there, Cam Kelly versus Bagelton, right? That'll be another good matchup because really Bagelton's the only guy that I see on this receiver group for Calgary that might be able to do some damage, and Cam's going to line up right across from him the whole time. So I'm looking forward to it. Before we get into the trends, Ticats fans, you could win a trip to Ticats October 29th, away game in Ottawa with Journey Rewards. Simply hit ticats.ca/journey-rewards to enter to win 2 tickets on Via Rail, hotel and game tickets, plus a chance at other prizes, including an autographed Ticats jersey or $250 gift card to the Ticats shop. Go on the road with the Ticats to Ottawa with Journey Rewards. But listen, before we start thinking about this Ottawa game, we got to bring it all the way back to this Calgary game, because this is going to be key. I mean, when you look at these two teams, what stands out to me, and I know, seasons, it's kind of for the Ticats is a tale of two halves, right? Or maybe a tale of, 2/3 and 1/3 at this point.
I think they're called quarters. Oh, or are you talking about the season as a whole, or are you talking about
season as a whole?
Okay, my bad. Shots fired, Courtney. I'm talking about fourth quarter collapses, and you're talking about the last
period. Thing. What's going on here?
Go ahead. No. Sorry.
The turnover ratio. I mean, any Ticat fan here can sit and hear turnover ratio, and you get the little heebie-jeebies going on. You know what I mean? You get the flabbergasted feel, the little tingles down your spine, whatever it is. And it's not much better when you look at these two teams, because when you look at the Ticats turnover ratio, -22 on the season, right? And now tough break at the beginning. It's been a lot better as recent, right? But you look over at the Calgary team, they lead the league with a +20. So when you look at what wins games, it's turnover ratio and it's big plays. And right now, it's a tough matchup for the Ticats in that situation. Now, I want to reiterate, that's a whole season, tough beginning for the Ticats, but still, numbers don't lie, and that's a tough one.
Well, Jake Maier has thrown 4 picks, so he is not immune. I know Dane has 15 interceptions, 15 touchdowns. Jake Maier is 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But I know that the DBs for the Ticats will be licking their chops. Few interesting facts that I've checked. Jovan Santos Knox, 91 tackles as he approaches 100 on the season. Now, he has had multiple games with 10 tackles this year, so it's not far gone to think that he might be able to cross that century mark this game. That will be an interesting storyline to watch. But also a quick fact check. I gotta show some more respect to Jake Maier, but also I was showing too much respect to my dog Bo Levi Mitchell, because Bo lost 2 Grey Cups, played in 4, and if you do the math, that means he only has won 2. I said that he won 3 earlier. He did not. So I just wanted to clear the air there, fact check myself. But Jake Maier, I think him and Dane, they're gonna get the headlines. I think that Kadeem Carey and West Hill, they're going to get the headlines. But one other matchup that is going to be extremely exciting for the nitty-gritty CFL fan to watch is going to be Silas Stewart, number 44 for Calgary, versus Lawrence Woods III. Lawrence Woods III, as you know, is the electric punt returner and kickoff returner for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He was dearly missed when he was out with an injury for the middle part of the season. When he returned, immediately gave a lift to that special teams unit and that team as a whole. But on the other side of it, Silas Stewart is the number 1 special teams tackler in the entire CFL. He is the missile, the heavy artillery from Mark Killam's special teams unit, which is always one of the best in the league. And he has 17 tackles. And you don't get 17 tackles on special teams by some kind of elaborate scheme that a coach draws up. You get 17 tackles on special teams from being a dog. It's straight up fighting and running and refusing to be blocked and finding your nose to the ball. So that's one matchup I'm really going to be looking for. Craig Butler has to have it in his game plan to ID 44 and put a person, if not 2, on him, because he will be disruptive in a return game, which is essential to the Ticats having an opportunity to bring this one home. Special teams units have done a ton to set up the offense in a favorable field position, because we know that the Ticats are only averaging about 1 touchdown on offense per game. So that's my super sneaky, geeky football matchup of the week. Silas Stewart. Watch out for the special teams.
And you said it perfectly. What it is to get that many special teams tackles, and really even a guy like Lawrence Woods, returning it the way he does. Special teams, the best way I can put it, is like a 40-yard dash, but having a street fight the whole time you're doing it.
Yes.
That's the best way I can describe it, where it's just chaos, bodies flying everywhere. And, for Lawrence Woods to be doing as well as he is, it is just perfect timing for him to come back last week, where he averaged over 10 yards a return again, right? And now for him to be able to help this offense out, set them up in a good field position. You're right. And, you start to look at how this game's going to play out. And Court, I have to ask you, when you're this Calgary offense looking at the Ticats defense, right? How do you try to attack them? Because we know in the past, Calgary's offense really relies on seeing some of their top receivers who aren't in right now, right? But some of their top receivers like Kamar Jordan, right? A Henry getting downfield and making those big time plays. Do you see them trying to kind of stick with that downfield big time play thing? Or is it really, hey, let's try to break this Ticats run defense and kind of dink and dunk our way down the field? Because when you look at the Ticats defense, I have a hard time finding any sort of weak spot in terms of where they could go attack, right?
Yeah, I think that that's a great point. And the Calgary offense that I expect to see is one where they come out with quick game, meaning the quarterback is going to catch the ball. He's going to take a quick 3 steps and throw, not a long drawn out 3 steps, 5 steps, and then launch it down the field. We're talking about routes that the receivers are breaking off after, 3 to 5 steps downfield. The routes will probably be caught somewhere between 7 to 12 yards. Universally, a slant pattern is thought of as a short route. The ball gets caught at about 9 yards, fall forward for the 10th. So I'm expecting to see quick game so that these defensive backs, if they miss in press coverage, that the ball just has to be, somewhere around the receiver. These receivers have great catch radiuses. That's their main thing. Guys like Richie Sindani and Colton Honchak, these guys, they're not going to blaze past you like a Malik Henry, but they're going to catch the ball when it's thrown to them, and that's key in the system. And I also expect Calgary to do exactly what I suggested that the Ticats do, which is force the Ticat DBs, specifically to the field where we have a little bit of smaller defensive backs, force them to make tackles. So don't be surprised when you see Calgary line up in bunch strong or line up in, heavy personnel or 2-back personnel and run toss to the field, toss sweep, and force Ciante Evans and Richard Leonard to make tackles on the running back in space. I think that's where they think they have a personnel matchup. I'll tell you what they're not going to do. They're not about to just drop back and try and dissect Mark Washington's cover 3 double cut or cover 4 or any of those zones, because that's where you're going to get those sacks happening, because after you cover those routes, which they absolutely will, they don't have good enough route runners to really work through the zones and have Jake Merrick have all day long to pick apart the defense. I think Malik Carney and Julian Hauser get home given, 5 steamboats, if that's what it is. So the Calgary attack, I think it's outside on the edges, rushing away from Jovan Santos Knox. And I think it's a quick game, throwing the ball so that, the defense has to be perfect and has to be in the right spot at the right time. And they dink it, dunk it all the way down the field with their home run hitter out of the game. Anything that I missed?
No, I like it. And really, just to kind of round all of this out, I think when you look at the Ticats offense, where I see them kind of really trying to attack this Calgary's defense is giving West Hills the ball. Like I said, making the Calgary defense believe that the Ticats are going to run the ball and run it effectively with West Hills. And then when that chance is that you can get a Tim White or Stephen Dunbar or really anybody downfield on these explosive pass plays that we know, Tim can make, we know Stephen Dunbar can make, we have seen happen time and time again, to take advantage of those. Dane just to relax, get it to his playmakers, big time plays after Calgary has to start sitting in on the run a little bit more. and then really taking advantage of the matchup that these receivers have against the Calgary defensive backs. I really see that being kind of the attack for Tommy Condell and the way that Ticats offense has been. But I'm excited for this one, man, because it's one of those ones where when you look at Calgary, they are playing so well that this can really set the stage for the Ticats to be able to make this final playoff push and get more confidence going into these, these two key Ottawa games at the end of the year and really into the playoffs, right? Like win against a team like this, it just helps you. You finish off Winnipeg, your last matchup with them, tough one against Sask when you need it. To win this one, I mean, confidence won't be any higher, but got to get it done first.
So that's it, folks. You heard it here. It's going to be Jake Mayer, Kadeem Carey, and Reggie Bagelton going head-to-head with Dane Evans, Wes Hills, and Simone Lawrence in Calgary, 9:45 Eastern at McMahon Stadium. It's the 10-5 Calgary Stampeders versus the 5-10 Hamilton Tiger Cats. 3 games left in the Ticats season, and they need to win. So make sure you tune in, and if you can't get out to YYC, Ticats Audio Network is the best place to take in the game. That's listen.ticats.ca. As always, thank you for tuning in and hope you have a great game day.
It's game day and you're ready. So are we. Let us know your thoughts. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Courtney Stephen and Mike Daly are here every game day with their insights into today's game. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.